Angelina recently had a new colleague, Jason, with whom she did not get along very well from day one. He was very present and constantly tried to irritate her in many ways. When he kicked her from behind in his second week, she was done with his behavior. Angelina knew she had to make Jason pay for what he had done. That fall caused her to go to work for the next month with a black eye. Everywhere, people were looking at her, so she planned out a revenge together with her colleague. Jason had no idea what was about to happen to him. Their plan was fairly straightforward. It wouldn't physically hurt him in any way, but he would be humiliated throughout the whole building and probably fired on the spot. But only if their plan went exactly as they envisioned. There was one part of their plan that really needed to happen. That day, Angelina went to work an hour early to set everything into action. She was excited but nervous. Today was the day they were finally getting rid of Jason. Or so they hoped, at least. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss our upcoming stories. It can be very annoying to work with someone you don't like. This happened to Angelina. She had been happily working for the same company for many years. She loved her job and always went to work with a smile on her face. But that all changed when they hired someone new. The company she worked for had been short-staffed for a little while, and she was initially glad they finally found someone new. But her opinion soon changed when she met her new colleague, Jason. She hoped he would be kind and hardworking, but as soon as she met him, she knew that was not the case. Angelina knew she shouldn't judge someone based on the first meeting, but he made it very hard for her to like him. In his first week working with her, he had made inappropriate remarks at her. He was always very present and even proudly talked about his sexist way of thinking. And then, one day, he did something that made Angelina's blood boil. She was showing her colleague at the front desk something when, out of nowhere, she felt a sharp pain in the back of her knee. Jason had kicked her, and before Angelina knew it, she fell to the ground, hitting her head on the desk underway. Luckily, she wasn't badly injured, but she was left with a big bump on her head and a headache for the rest of the day. Jason apologized to Angelina as soon as he saw how badly she fell, but it didn't feel like he meant it. After this, Angelina was done with Jason. She knew all her initial feelings about him were right, and he didn't belong with this company. She wanted him fired, but didn't want him to get away with this without consequences. No, she wanted him to feel the same pain and discomfort she was feeling. So, Angelina decided she wanted to take revenge. She wanted to humiliate Jason in front of everyone. But she didn't want to end up getting fired herself over something so stupid. So she had to really think her plan through. Samantha, the colleague that was with Angelina when the incident happened, asked Angelina what she wanted to do about Jason. She told her she would back her up if she wanted to tell everything to management, and that she would do anything to get Jason fired. Samantha and Angelina planned to get together on Saturday so they could talk about what they were going to do next. Angelina headed over to Samantha's house and they discussed their plan over the weekend. As Monday came around the corner, Angelina couldn't wait to get back to work. This was it. Angelina walked through the halls of her office building. She felt confident in her plan and couldn't wait to see Jason's face. One slip up and their entire plan would fall into pieces. Jason wasn't making staying silent easy for Angelina. It almost felt like he was extra annoying now. He lingered around her desk and asked her all sorts of annoying questions. Angelina tried her best to stay neutral but eventually reached her limit. She was packing up her laptop to head home when he suddenly showed up behind her. He yelled in her ear, almost busting her eardrum. "I would go home too if I were you after that nasty fall from the other week. You're so clumsy. I wonder why they hired you in the first place," he said with a smirk on his face. This was the last straw for Angelina. She just couldn't hold her anger in any longer. "Your days of working here are numbered, Jason. One more of your nasty comments and I will make sure you'll never be able to get a job in this industry ever again." She immediately called Samantha when she got home to inform her about the change of plans. That night, Angelina lay in bed preparing herself for what was about to happen tomorrow. This was very out of her comfort zone, but she knew she had to do it. Otherwise, Jason would keep this attitude for the rest of his life, and Angelina wanted to stop him from potentially hurting someone else. Their plan was fairly straightforward. It wouldn't physically hurt him in any way, but he would be humiliated throughout the whole building and probably fired on the spot. The next morning, Angelina headed over to her office an hour early. First, she sneaked to Jason's desk and opened his online calendar. There, she scheduled for him to be in the main conference room at noon for an important meeting. She arrived at work around 7 a.m. Normally, their workday started at 9, but she had to be there for the security guard shift switch. Samantha couldn't be a second late, or else she would be spotted by one of the guards. So, she arrived 30 minutes before the switch and just waited at her desk. Time ticked by as Samantha sat at her desk staring at the clock. Finally, it was time for her to head over to the security room. Just as she arrived, two guards walked out of the room, and as Samantha came from behind them, she could quickly sneak in through the closing door. The room was lit by the security screens, and Samantha wasn't sure where to look, but she knew she had to be quick. She was in and out of the room within 2 minutes and heard the guards returning as she casually walked back to her desk. She called Angelina and told her the first stage of the revenge plan had succeeded. She could hear the excitement in Angelina's voice as she told Samantha how proud she was of her. Samantha walked over to Angelina's desk and gave her what she had stolen from the security room. Her job was done, but the plan wasn't fully executed executed yet. It was now up to Angelina to make everything come together, but that would turn out to be harder than she had thought. Angelina smiled as she took the object to the IT guy. This next step was a bit more difficult. As Angelina proudly walked out of the IT office, she couldn't believe she had done it. There was really no turning back now. It felt as if nothing could go wrong from here, but she couldn't have been more wrong, because as the clock struck 9 a.m., Jason was still not in the office. Angelina watched his office like a hawk and didn't understand why he wasn't at work yet. Was he sick? It just didn't make sense at all. She had looked through his agenda this morning, and there was nothing on it for the morning. Was he on to them? She feared their little intimidating standoff from yesterday might have screwed their whole plan up. Maybe he realized she was planning on doing something very soon and now decided to work from home this specific day. She had to tell Samantha about this, so she quickly walked over to her desk. Samantha was working as normal and expected Angelina to do the same, but when she suddenly showed up at her desk, she knew something was wrong. Angelina explained Jason wasn't here yet. He was now almost an hour late. This was nothing like him, and they started to worry. Not about him, of course, but about their plan. They could abort for today and try again tomorrow, but it wouldn't be long until the security guards would figure out something went missing from their files. She was just about to return to her desk to think when she heard a familiar voice from behind. "Hello, ladies, no time to shower this morning?" It was Jason, who casually walked in as if he wasn't even late at all. Angelina and Samantha both ignored his rude remark and watched as he walked over to his office. It was very important to their plan for him not to question the important meeting from this afternoon. Angelina watched as Jason closed his laptop and prepared to go to the conference room. He had no idea what was about to happen, because if he did, he would have never gone there. Angelina couldn't believe he was walking right into their trap. It seemed a little bit too easy. They expected, or hoped, to hear a scream, followed by Jason running out of the conference room and straight to Angelina. On her way to IT, she walked past the conference room where she saw Jason sitting at the table with his binder in front of him. He was checking his watch and clearly waiting for someone, just as they had planned. So the problem was clearly in the IT department. Once she arrived at the IT department, Angelina immediately knew what was wrong. The guy who had promised to help her wasn't there. In fact, no one was there. She walked in and closed the door behind her. She figured she had to be the one to step up. Luckily for her, the IT guy had already set everything up. He was probably just about to press play when he was called away from his desk. Angeline sighed. This was the final moment. She could still back down. Her finger hovered over the play button as she hesitated slightly. But then she thought back at all the snarky comments, rude remarks, and other abuse she had gone through at the hands of Jason. Now, guided by anger, she hesitated no longer. She took one last deep breath and pressed play. After that, she quickly exited the room and rushed back to her desk. What happened next seemed to have gone in slow motion. She heard the confused sounds of Jason watching himself kick Angelina on the screen. She heard mumbling in the hallway and gasps from behind her colleagues' desks as they watched along. You see, Jason wasn't the only one who watched the footage. The IT guy had made sure that all the TV screens throughout the whole building played the same footage of Jason kicking Angelina. There was no way around his abuse anymore, and now everyone knew about it. The footage even played on the boss's private TV screen in his office. His facial expressions changed as he realized everyone had watched the footage with him, and his anger suddenly changed into shame. He had gotten himself into this mess, and there was no way out. When he arrived at Angelina's desk, she already knew what she was going to say. He yelled at her and ordered her to take it down, but Angelina insisted she had nothing to do with it. Angelina smiled as she turned her head back to Jason. She gave him a confident smile and watched his bully demeanor change into the role of a victim. Suddenly, he wasn't so tough anymore. Soon after, the boss and head of HR arrived. They asked to speak to Angelina and Jason in private. Angelina hoped the IT guy wouldn't snitch on her. Once they were in private, Jason started to rant about the footage immediately. He claimed he was being framed. Gerard tried to defuse the situation, but Jason just couldn't let it go. He yelled at Angelina, letting his true colors shine through. "You think you can just threaten me and then pull something like this the next day?" he yelled as he pointed his finger right in her face. "You're going to pay for this." All right, you two. "I've heard enough," said while pushing Jason backward. He told both of them to sit down and calmly asked Angelina if she knew this incident would take place. But Angelina stuck with her innocence and claimed she had no idea the ordeal was even filmed. A little after that, the IT guy walked into the room. He locked eyes with Angelina, who suddenly feared for her job. The IT guy could probably see the fear in her eyes and offered a reassuring smile. He stood between Jason and Angelina and waited for Gerard to say something. "So, Tom, where did you get the tape?" Well, Tom began. "I didn't get it from anyone. I didn't even know what was on it." "Then why did you play it on all the TVs at just the right time?" "The disc just suddenly appeared on my desk together with a note, I swear." Gerard sighed. He knew he could only blame one person for this, and that was Jason. It was him who kicked Angelina, which could be seen on the footage clear as day. Gerard had one more question for Angelina, which was why she didn't report the incident right after it happened. Angelina had thought about reporting it, but she feared no one would take her seriously. His abuse had started long ago, and she always thought HR had to know about it, but just didn't care. Gerard was saddened to hear his team had let Angelina down, but vowed to do better in the future. He fired Jason on the spot and told him to leave immediately. He also told him he didn't want to be a reference for any future job, and that he should change his act if he ever wanted to make it in the business world. Jason put up a fight but ultimately knew he had lost this battle as soon as that footage played. Angelina was let go with a warning, even though she claimed to have nothing to do with it. Gerard knew deep down that she did, but he also knew he didn't want to put her through more trouble than Jason already had done. Angelina was praised by all her female co-workers, and the company soon replaced Jason's position with a woman.